So I want to welcome you back to the Macrame 101 course. Now we're in lesson 3. So today I have something special for you today. I will be teaching you the spiral knot. This is going to go great with the first 2 lessons that we've already had. So if you haven't seen those, I'm going to go ahead and tag them on top of this video so that you guys can reference back to those 2 lessons. It's really important to know that this is a 4-part course. So if you have not seen lesson 1, lesson 2, this lesson might be a little confusing. So go back, make sure that you have seen lesson 1, lesson 2, and then you can come see this video. So I'm going to go over the materials that I'm going to use for this presentation. So let's go over the materials that I'm going to use for the demonstration. And remember, this is a demo on the spiral knot. We will not be completing a full bracelet since we've already learned how to complete a bracelet in lesson 1. I am going to go over technique, and this is the material that I'm going to use so that you know what size I'm using. I'm going to be using 2 different colors of nylon cord. They are 0.8 millimeter. So I'm using this 0.8 millimeter nylon cord. I definitely need my measuring tape. Don't forget that one. I'm going to need my lighting device, okay, to make sure that I can melt the ends there, especially if you're doing a full bracelet. You are also going to need your cutting buddies. You're gonna need these, and you are going to need some spacers, focal bead, any type, irregular, any type of focal bead that you want to use in the middle, or a connector, because we are going to be showing you how you can add a connector to your bracelet. And I will be using my macrame board. In lesson 1, we go over all the options that you can use to use a macrame board. So I'm going to use the one that I have with my 2 clips. Okay, so now we're going to get started with learning the spiral knot. I'm going to be teaching you how to do the spiral knot. Now the spiral knot is also known as the half square knot. It's really important that you guys know that, and you're going to understand why, especially because you've already learned how to do the square knot in lesson 1. The spiral look is like this. That's what it looks like. But if you see the cord that I'm going to use, it's going to give it a whole different look. You're going to see it come to life and see how nice and beautiful this looks on a smaller size cord, like the one I'm going to use, which is 0.8 millimeter. This one is a 2 millimeter, and it's a satin one, so it makes it very chunky looking. And this is what we're going to do, this design here. And we are going to be using 2 strands for the base, where we normally used 1 in our first lesson. We're going to be using 2. You want to make sure that if you're doing end beads, or if you're doing anything focal in the middle, that you make sure it fits through both of the strands that you have on base. I'm going to be using 0.8 millimeter. And I'm going to explain to you the sizes of the strings if you're doing a full bracelet. I'm going to use 2 colors so that you guys can see the difference, the contrast between the base and the actual spiral knot. So I'm going to use 2, but you can make it all 1 color if you'd like. So I'm going to be explaining in the next step how much of your nylon cord you're going to need if you're doing a full spiral bracelet. I'm going to explain to you how much you would need if you don't use any beads and you just want to make it just all spiral knot, or if you're going to use a connector or a center irregular focal bead. Okay, so we're going to talk those. So make sure that if you're watching this video, you have you're writing it down, and because we're going to give you good information so that you can create your own spiral knot bracelet. Okay, and also make sure that you know exactly what you're going to use in the middle if you wanted to add something. I will teach you how to add a regular round bead, and I will also teach you how to add an irregular one. Okay, an irregular, and by what I mean irregular, that it's shaped differently, like a square, like a heart, or even a connector. Okay, so we're going to go all over that information in the next step. Okay, for the sizes that you are going to use, now we're going to talk about the sizes of the string. Okay, now for the base string, remember in lesson 1 we said that the base string is the string that is going to go on your board or on your mat or on your table, clip, whatever you're using. So your base string, you have to decide whether you want to make your bracelet completely just the spiral knot with no beads, no decoration. Okay, if that's the case, your base string is going to be, okay, if you get your base string, it's going to be a total of 21 inches times 2. Okay, so that means 42 inches long. Okay, 42 inches long, so that when it's closed, you are going to have 21 inches. Okay, that just gives you enough room, enough to work on with your knots. Okay, the working string, the one that you are going to be knotting with, you are going to do 78 inches, all the long string, 78 inches, and we're going to fold it in half. Okay, so when we fold it in half, we're going to get about 39 inches. So for the base, you're going to take a long 42-inch cord, and you're going to fold it in half so that when it's folded in half, it's 21 inches. So this is going to give us our base. And yes, we're using 2 on the base, and I'll explain to you why. If you're doing it with no beads, the working string is 78 inches. So that when it's folded in half, you have a total of 39 inches. And this is going to be your working string. In lesson 1, we talked about the working string being the one that we call the one that does the knotting. Okay, so that's it if you're going to do with no beads, no connectors. Any questions before I go explaining the rest of the sizes? Hello, Linda. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. And the reason why I'm stopping like this, you guys, is because this is going to go on the YouTube channel. So I need to pause I need to do it without interruptions, and then pause for you guys to ask your questions. No? Okay, so no questions for that first part. 0.8 millimeter, Azucena, 0.8 millimeter nylon cord. 0.8 millimeter nylon cord. Okay. You're welcome. All right, so now we're going to go to the next sizing in the cord. If you are going to use a center focal bead, your middle string, your base string, the foundation string will stay the same. Okay, that will stay the same as the measurements before. Okay, a 42-inch long string folded in half, 21 inches. Okay, that's what's going to be your base, regardless of what style you're going to use. What's going to change is going to be your working string. So now if you're working string and you're going to put a focal or something different in the middle, then you are going to use a 2 strands of 40 inches. 2 strands of 40 inches each. Okay, we're going to split it up, so we're going to have 40 inches strands 2 times, so 2 of them, 40 inches, so that when we fold them in half, they're about 20 inches long. Okay, because we're going to work the design on one side and then we're going to work the design on the other. We're going to separate it. So that's why our working string needs to be 2 separate 40-inch strands. So 2 40-inch strands. When folded in half, it's 20 inches. 1 to work one side and 1 to work the other side. Okay, and this is only the measurements for the bracelet. If you're going to use a regular center bead on the strands or a connector on the strands. Okay, that is the only time you're going to do 2 of these, and you may need more, but I'm just giving you a guesstimated amount of what would work for you. So now that you have determined what size of cord you are going to use, you're going to go ahead and put your base string on here. Now, for those that are deciding to use a center piece, let me give you a tip. It is very important that before you get started, that before you start knotting, that you put your focal bead or anything that you're going to put in the middle, any design, whether it's 3 beads, 4 beads, 5 beads, whatever design you want it to have, through this cord. But I'd rather you do it when you have this loop on there, so that you can use, now this is what I forgot to tell you guys, I am using a beading wire. I just cut some beading wire and I folded it in half and made myself one of these needles. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my loop, and it's going to be easier than to try and put it on these 2 ends once you're done, or when you get to do it. So this is a tip that will save you so much headaches. Okay, make sure that you put your center design in the middle, or whatever you're going to use. So let's say I want to do a design of like 4 beads, and then in the middle I want to put those on first, so then I can start my knotting here and then move my beads up. Okay, so this is a tip, okay, that it will help you when you are designing and you're doing knots on one end, and then you're separating it by a design of beads or focal or connectors, and then going, you know, to the next section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose which one I want, and of course I am going to choose a butterfly. So I'm going to make sure that this one's going to go through all the way through the other end, and it went out through the wrong opening, so you have to make sure you find it. And once you pull it through, it's going to be easier. Okay, so there I have it. Because if you try and do it at this end after you do the first knottings, it's not going to work. Right, so now you can put your base string back on the board, and make sure that you keep these close enough. They don't need to be open. And the reason why we're using 2 strings on the base is so that the spiral knot has a little thickness in here, and it looks a lot better than if you did 1. So this gives it more of a easier, like bigger look, more sturdy. It just gives it a better look. Okay, you can try it with 1, but I don't recommend it. I personally didn't like it, but who knows, you might like it yourself. Okay, so this is going to be my center, and this is what I mean by irregular, meaning it's not a round bead where I can do some knotting and then just capture it like we did in lesson 1. Because it is irregular, it would look very odd if we put the string around it to capture it like we normally do and then continue, because this is a separate design. So we have to do one design on one side and the same design on the second side. Okay, so I'm going to put my base like this with my middle. So don't worry if it moves like this, or if it doesn't hold in the position you want it to. It will once you get your knotting done. Okay, so now that you have your base cord on your board and you have your centerpiece, whatever you're going to use as your centerpiece, I'm going to grab one of my 2 strands and I'm going to start my spiral knots. We're going to learn how to do the spiral knot. I'm going to do it very slowly and detailed for all our new friends that are just beginning, because this course was designed just for you. Okay, we're going to do this part. Before we do that, make sure that if you are making your bracelet a certain size, make sure you measure how much your focal bead would be, okay, or your center is how big it is. So I'm just going to put my measurement here, and I want to measure the part that actually is going through there. Okay, so it's about 1/2 inch or a little more than 1/2 inch. Okay, that's how big my focal bead is. So remember how we, in lesson 1, we said how much length you're going to work. You're going to determine that. So let's say I want to work this to 6.5 inches. That means that I'm going to do 3 inches of my design, and then I'm going to do 3 inches on this side. Okay, and here we go. Okay, now for the spiral knot, we're going to cast on our working string onto our base, and we're going to cast it on the same way we would do for a square knot like we did in lesson 1. So let's remind everyone how to do that. So you're going to get your little loop like this, folding your strand in half, and you're going to go underneath your base. When you come here, you are going to twist this, make a little twist like an X right there, and then the bottom one, the one that's right here on my pointer, we are going to put that one through this loop here like this, and that is how you cast on your starting knot. Just going to be right there. Okay, so since this is called a spiral knot, as you do your knot, you're actually going to see it twist and spiral. Okay, it's kind of a very neat knot once you look at it and how pretty it is. The first time is going to be difficult, I can guarantee you that. Okay, when I was learning the spiral knot, I was struggling. Here with the spiral knot, there are certain things to remember that will make it easier for you. We're always going to be working with the same side, where with the square knots we alternate sides. With the spiral knot, we're only using one side. So it doesn't matter what side you started on. Let's say your little ridge was on this side. Doesn't matter. If you start on the right, you continue with that right side. If you start on the left, you continue with the left side. There's going to be something that is going to happen to your knotting here that it might frustrate you. But let me tell you, if you do this slowly, if you take time to really get to know what the knot's starting to look like, you will easily be able to master this knot. Okay, so this is how we're going to start. It is also known as half a square knot because we're only using one side. A full square knot would be one side, then the other side, and alternating. But this is a half square knot, also known as a spiral knot. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a regular movement like we do our square knot, or we're going to start on this side. I'm going to start on my left. Doesn't matter again which side. I'm going to go on top. This is the regular square knot that I'm going to do. One on top, this one on top of this one, and then I'm going to go underneath the base and up through the loop. Okay, there we go, right there. Normally, if we're doing a regular square knot, I would now have to do this side. But now we're doing a spiral. I'm going to continue with this side. So I'm going to go on top, and I'm going to do another. The same knot that you've learned in lesson 1, except we're only doing one side. Again, left side on top, this one on this top, and then going through the middle. So what's starting to happen, and I don't know if you can see, but do you see how it starts twisting? The more you do it, not only is this going to twist, but this whole thing here is going to go twisting all around until it gets to the other side. Okay, so we're going to continue. Don't lose track. So if you look at your work and you see how it's doing, this little ridge here, you're going to always start on this side. Okay, do you see how it comes out? So study it, look at how it looks, and see how the ridge is on this side, and then how it's here. Okay, so this is going to be very important that you pay attention to that so that you can have a very uniform spiral knot. So we're going to continue. You continue doing the same like this. Watch what's happening. Okay, I'm going to show you what's happening. I am not losing sight of that string. Okay, you see how it now is twisting over there? So I'm going to naturally just keep doing the knots, and look what happens. I'm going to do it like this, and it brings it back to this, and see how it's twisted? So when I move it like this, it's just going to move like that. So when I undo it, it's going to twist back. Okay, so I'm going to go again. You see how this one's on the one I'm still working, and even if it's twisted sideways, I'm still doing a square knot like this and going on top and going through the loop up through the here. And now see, watch. Now see how that's twisted? I'm going to twist it like this. I'm just going to close it shut. It's going to go back to its place. Okay, so I continue doing it with the same side. A lot of people take time to undo this and then switch it around. What I do is I switch it back. It's still going to go back to its place. So no matter if I bring it back here, it's still going to be here. What I have to do though, if someone calls me, or I get a call, you know, my son needs me or my husband needs me, I always mark. So either you can make a knot like this, you know, and then go and answer your call. That way you know you have to start with this one, or put a clip on it. So you see how it's already like always like almost facing down. So here I can actually just take this and make it just go all the way over, twist it this way and bring it back here. Okay, and then just continue doing my square knots. So it's going to guide you. It's going to guide you to how you want to do it. Some people, my husband, when he does these, he actually lifts the clip and rearranges it. Okay, that to me takes time away from what I'm doing. So it's not as efficient for me, but for him, he loves to be as detailed as possible. So he wants to make sure it's going in the right direction. So for him, not to get lost, he actually unclips this part here and makes it, you know, face the right way. You guys can do that too. It's what works for you. I always see that as long, because I took time to study the structure of it. So if you look at it, do you see those knots, how they're going? I studied this right here. So I saw that it comes out in this ridge here and this ridge. So right here is where it is. So it doesn't matter how I twist it, how I do my knot. If I continue doing it, I'm going to do a couple, like faster. So you can see how it starts twisting around. And even it goes all the way like this, I bring it back when I'm doing my knot. This works for me, but you might want to do what my husband does, where he unclips it, he fixes it, and then he continues. To me, it just wastes a little bit of my time, and then I go. Do you see how I bring it back here? And I go all the way. So you see how this one's like completely twisted? When I go like that, look, it brings it back to this place, but when I let it go, it actually is already like almost laying like all the way around. So as long as I don't lose track of which one I'm using, like this, I can always bring it back. Okay, so now it looks like a figure 8 for me, but when I close it, I bring it back to me. You see how this is twisting? That's okay. So now, once it's like this, I can actually just bring it around. So this is my working one. I'm not losing track of my working one, and I bring it over here. So now I'm going to continue to do this until I reach about 3 inches. If you're doing a bracelet, this is what you would do. And then you make sure. So like I said, if you're going to do something, make sure you can put, like, you know, maybe you can do a little knot, something that, you know, you can remember, that you can come back to this one. So if I go, you know, to get to the restroom, to go whatever I need to do, when I come back, I know that I'm working on this one. This is the one that I'm working at, so I don't lose track of where I'm at. And that's what your spiral knot should look like. Okay, so now that I reached my 3 inches that I needed for this part, I want to show you if you are doing a bead that is round. So for example, if you're doing one of these in the middle, you don't need to separate. So this would be for the people that want to do a bead in the middle. You can do the measurements for your bracelet as if you were not doing any beads, so that when you get here to the amount that you want, then you can put this bead here, and then you would capture it like normal. Okay, just capture it by normal, but make sure that when you capture it, that you capture it with this being flat like this. So just the way this is like this, make sure it is like this. Okay, so this is where you would capture it, right here. And you would continue with the twisting on the other side of the bead. You can do that type of style, like capturing the bead when it's round. Okay, so in this lesson, we're learning how to do it if the bead is, or the center focal is irregular, so you can't really capture this like this. It doesn't really look good. But let me give you a tip. If your hole is big enough and this string you use the long one, guess what you can do? You can actually put it in. So let's say this one has 2, right? You can put in the string going here and here. Like let's say this has 2 and it's closer, or it fits, you know, all 4 of these through here. You can do it that way too, okay? I personally like to have it just one side, finish the bracelet here, and then go ahead and add my other knotting on this side. So I'm going to finish this side by finishing off. So I already have 3 inches right here, and I am going to be cutting really close here and here, okay? So that way with my lighting device, I'm going to get it really close so that it can melt it and I can seal it, okay? Unfortunately, because I am also on TikTok, I am not allowed to show that on camera. So I would do this on both sides, okay? So let me go ahead and cut. Let me go ahead and cut this. And I have to do that off camera. And I will show you how much of it I've cut off. Okay, so I cut enough to leave it so that I can then put my lighting device really close and melt that side to seal it. And I'm going to do that off screen as well. So now that I went ahead and cut it, I used my lighting device to melt the sides, and that seals it and makes them stick to the actual cord so that it doesn't unravel. Okay, so now that I've done that, I am ready to continue on the same side. On the other side. So if we go here, that's where we're going to start. So let me show you how to start this. Like I said, we're not going to do the full bracelet because I've already explained on lesson 1 how to do a full bracelet. We are going to focus on technique and how to build it, and then you can go ahead and finish it. So now the knotting, I want to start close to this so that the closer I get, it's going to hold this thing that normally will want to, you know, move around. So what you want to do now, let me show you. So now we get our another piece. So look, you guys, this is the only amount that was left from the inches. So we kind of calculated very well. I'm excited. Okay, so now we're going to get the other one. So now we're going to get our second cord, and we're going to start. Go ahead and start a little below this focal bead. So we're going to start around here, and remember, we're going to start the same way we started here, okay, to continue the same type of swirl. So we're going to go underneath, we're going to twist this into that little X right there. Then the one at the bottom, I am going to open this loop over here, and I'm going to put the bottom, just the bottom one, through this loop all the way through, and that's going to start. I'm ready to start my knotting. Now, before I secure it, I want to make sure that I do a couple of knots before it starts really twisting. So again, away from it, I'm just going to do a couple of knots. Remember, I'm starting on the left, okay? Keeping it the same as the other side, I'm doing the left square knot, where it's a half square knot, up on top of this one, underneath the base, and up through the loop. There's one. And then I'm doing the same side, remember, left, up on top of this, and to the loop, like this. Okay, so now that I have a couple of knots here, before it starts really twisting, I'm just going to move this up and I'm going to tighten to squeeze these. So then this, and now because it's kind of twisting, your charm or whatever, if it's one-sided, it's going to twist along with your bracelet. So don't worry about it. Okay, so this one's kind of slanted because it's starting to twist, but it's securing it right there. Okay, so I keep going. Left, only the left. We're doing a spiral knot only on the left, half a square knot. We're not alternating like the regular square knot. We're only doing one side. Top, this here, through, continue. And we're going to continue the same thing we did on the first part. We're going to continue. And that way you can finish this all the way up to your length that you're desired. So the same length you have here, you're going to add on this side. And you can finish your bracelet that way. So in the next section, because we've already learned how to complete your bracelet in lesson 1, in the next section, I am going to teach you how to use a connector. Okay, what would you do if you need to use a connector? How would you start your bracelet? So a connector like this that has two sides that have this to attach, one side here and then one on the other side, okay, as well as something like this. Okay, so we are going to do how you would attach this to a bracelet with either design, whether it's this design or the regular square knot. Okay, so you can go ahead. Now do you see how this is going to twist? It's going to twist. Remember, keep doing the same side, keep working it. You can finish your bracelet. Make sure that you're paying attention to how it's twisting, and remember all the tips that I gave you in order for it to start looking like this, and that way you can create your own beautiful spiral knot bracelet. Okay, okay, so now that you have gotten all the way to your end of your bracelet, now that you have finished and reached the length, I did forget to mention that when you are closing your bracelet, you're going to do the same thing that you did on this side, where you're going to cut this as close as can be and going to melt the ends with your lighting device. But on the actual slider that you're going to do, and by I mean a slider, I mean the ones that go on here that slide, the twisting, the spiral twist, will not be able to work as a slider. So I recommend a regular square knot slider on this type of bracelet. Okay, so I'm going to show you the one that I did with the thicker string. This is a satin string, and this is a very like chunky one. It has the same technique, the same knotting. And this is this one here. As you can see, we put a slider on here, a slider like this. Okay, so this would not be able to work as well. So for your slider, you're going to finish your bracelet. You want to make sure that you use your slider. And remember, because we use 2 strings on this, you're going to have, at the end, you're going to have 4 strands to put your beads. Now, if you have a bead that has the hole big enough, you can fit 2 strands in one bead. That way you don't have to have 4 dangling at the end. So you will only have 2. Okay, so you decide what you like. Some people like the dangling, you know, they like it. Some people don't. So what's going to happen is, if you see it, you can put two, as long as you find a bead that fits both of them. Okay. All right. So now in the next part, I'm going to show you, so whoever is going to be using a connector, okay, so in this case, like something like this or something like this, I'm going to show you how to start a bracelet with connectors, okay. And you can use any knot that you've learned. You can use the spiral, or also known as the half square knot. But look at how pretty that looks. Look at how gorgeous that looks. That looks really pretty. Or you can use regular square knots that we learned in lesson 1. But I'm going to show you how to connect your string on each end. Okay? So that you can start your bracelet. And this means it applies to any connector that is going to have both ends being able to connect. So something like this, or something like this, okay? So let's get your connector ready, what you're going to use. And it can also be a regular ring. Some people have those regular, really pretty gemstone rings or donuts. You can use those in the middle. So this will apply to anything that you can connect on both ends, okay? So in the next step, I'm going to show you how to connect your string. Okay, great. So in this part, I'm going to teach you how to do a connector on one of our cord bracelets. So the length that you're going to use on the sides here, because we are connecting each side, you want to make sure that if your bracelet here, make sure that on this end there is about that depends also on the connector that you have. So let's measure the connector first. So my connector that I'm going to use in the middle measures a total of 1.25 inches. Okay, 1.25 approximately is what it measures. So I have to take into consideration that length of whatever connector I use from end to end. This is a little over 1.5 right here. Okay, so 1.5, and this is 1.25. So from the length that you want, so if I want a 6.5 inch or a 7-inch bracelet, I am going to subtract this length off of my 7 inches, and then whatever is left over, I'm going to divide into two. One's going to be this side and one's going to be that side, and this is going to be the design length. Okay, so you're going to work whatever is minus the 1 inch or whatever your focal connector is. You're going to minus it from the length desired of your design. So you take away, in this case, it's going to be 1.25 inches from 7 inches. And then that will be the what you have left over. Then you're going to divide that into two. And that means that your design needs to be that length on each side. Okay? That length on each side. So you're going to determine how much string you're going to need for your design, for your adjustable slider, and for your extension. Okay, I recommend honestly that you do about 12 inches just to be on the safe side. You're going to have a lot left over, I know you are, but it's best to have some left over than to be short. Okay, so I'm going to do 12 inches, and this means 24 folded in half. Okay, so when it's folded in half, it's 12 inches. So I'm just going to do 24 or even 20, whatever you feel. I always like to have more because when I burn here the ends, what happens is when I get my lighting device and I make my needles to put in my end beads, I sometimes end up wasting a lot because I go from here and then I go here and then I go here until I get it right to where I need it, and that is not the correct way. So that's why I rather have some left over. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to do the same amount on the other side. And if you guys remember the pendant knot, well, guess what? Now it's going to be on a video because that's the one that we're going to use to connect. Okay, I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut off screen. Okay, I'm cutting off screen, and I'm cutting to the same length. So each of these now. Okay, each of these now are the same length, and I'm going to grab one, fold it in half, and that's going to be one side, and then this one is going to be folded in half, and it's going to be my other side. But these are going to be my base string. Okay, so we're going to connect. So for those that had the connectors, this is what I'm going to do. Now we're going to start doing the pendant knot. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the next step is I'm going to connect these here on each end. Okay, all right, so now we're going to go ahead and do the pendant knot right to connect to the connector here, and we're going to take one of our strands, make sure it's folded in half and right down the middle. Okay, we're going to put it on a beading wire, and we're going to go up from the bottom up through that opening so that our loop goes through there. Once it's there, we can remove our needle. Now we're going to grab this and open it up so that we can put this part, this strands, through this opening. So you're just going to grab them and go through and make them come on the other side. So now that you're crossed them over, you're going to get this loop now, and you're going to twist it like this. So just like a little figure 8, and then you're going to pull this through. Okay, make sure that you grab that loop that way. So now this part, you have the loop on the other side, and guess what? We're going to turn it like this, and you're going to twist it again. So we're going to do another figure 8, and we're going to pull it through this way. And then this is what's going to happen. Watch. Remember how I left my finger in there? Well, there's a reason. Because look, I'm going to pull it, and as I'm pulling it, it creates a knot that is called a pendant knot, and it makes it look so much neater and nicer, and it connects really, really nice. Okay, make sure that you fix it, twist it. See, that's a pretty knot. And that is what you do. So we're going to do the same on the other side. Okay, and it secures it if you do it twice. So you can do it once when you just twist it once, but I really like the way it looks when you do it twice. It makes it very, very secure. And sometimes when it's not done correctly, if you guys don't do it but just once, this will open up and the string will come here. The cord will come up on the corners. I don't know if you've had that happen before, but that's exactly what happens if you only do one. So this one kind of secures it with that layer, you know, that extra one. So it kind of piles up. Again, you use your little needle help halfway. You're going to go up this way, pull it through the little loop under your needle, and you're going to put your finger right here, okay, like this, and you're going to pull this end across. And make sure your finger's there. Okay, and that you did it once, and now it's gonna do it again like this and pulling it this way. Okay, and you can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as many times as you want. So see, look at that, how beautiful that looks. So that is your pendant knot on each side, and that's how you connect them. So now that you have your string on each side, you have both strands. This is what it should look like. This is what the front should look like, but I really like this side. So if you like this to be on the front, then you do it the opposite way. You would put it up your strand, you would pull it through the front towards the back. Okay, you would just reverse it and you will do the same steps. Okay, I like this one because this one kind of stays out of the way because we're going to cover it anyway, and because this one is a curved connector, it's going to stay out of the way. Very nice. All right, so now that you have that, now we're going to work in a different direction. In the one we did prior, which we did this one, we started from the top towards the middle and then worked out. Well, in this case, we're now going to use the opposite direction. We're going to do the opposite direction. So we're going to start from here and work out, and then from here work out this direction. So whatever length you want to reach, make sure you count the middle length like we said, and then you had divided each length, so you're going to work each section with the stitch that you want, whether it's the twisted, whether it's the square knot. I really love these type of connectors with the regular square knot. I think those look amazing. So you would just put it in your board or whatever table or whatever you're using. You're going to connect it the same way, and you're making sure that it's going to be and you're going to reach out all the way to the other side so that it doesn't twist on you. Make sure it's stable. Okay, and by stable is like not really, you know, loose. And now you can start your knotting. So for example, I'm going to show you because we've already done this, so this is just going to be a little demo. For example, I want to do square knots on this one. So on the sides, remember how you did the other one with the charm, how we did the length, where we did two pieces or two strands of 40 inches each. So that's exactly what you're going to do. So you're going to do 40 inches of the strands, and that's going to be like 20 inches when it's folded in half, right? So once you have that, you can add beads on here, right here. So if you wanted to add a bead or, you know, little faceted or spacer, you would have to make your needle at the end here on both, and then have the bead big enough to fit through two, you know, these two strands fit through your bead so that it can get up to here. And you can put two, you can decorate it as much as you want on each side, but your beads will now have to go through this end. Okay, so that way you can put it through here. So you would create your needles, and we've showed you in the lesson before, lesson number 2, how to create that needle as well. So you're going to secure it, and this one you're going to do the knotting that you want. So if you want to do the square knot, or you can do the 2-color like we did in lesson 2, you can combine 2 colors on it. That would look really pretty. And you would just start the same way you would a regular bracelet, but you're going to work yourself from the centerpiece. You're going to cast on like you normally do your knotting. You're going to make it go as close as you can, and that's when you start your square knot. Regular square knot that has the alternating sides. Okay, if you don't know how to do the square knot, I'm going to go ahead and pin that video on top of this tutorial so that you guys can go catch up on that lesson. It's lesson number 1, where I teach you how to do the basic square knot. Okay, so for this lesson, this is what I brought for you guys today. So let me tell you about your assignment. We'll have a project assignment or a practice assignment. Do you see that? So you would just work that and on each end to complete your bracelet. And that's what you would do with a connector like this. So going back to your practice assignment. After your lesson, okay, what your practice assignment will be is you are going to create a bracelet that has either a connector or an irregular focal bead, and you are going to create this one here, this spiral knot. Okay, so that's what's going to be your assignment. You are going to create your own bracelet that is going to be either a connector or one of these charms or spacers, irregular. And it can also be a round bead, but not in cap, like don't wrap around it, divide it the same way. So even if you do one of these beads, I want you to learn how to do or practice what you learned in this lesson, which was cutting it off here and then continuing it on this side. So whatever it is, you would use the beginning here and here, and then start here and end at the end, and finish your bracelet, okay, the way you want it to end. So that is your assignment for this week. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have enjoyed the lesson for today, and I can't wait to see you next week.